but it's so different. And also the vastness of the country, because I think Scotland is just so small that, and you don't maybe realise that till you go away. I mean, I've obviously travelled, I was brought up abroad, so I don't have a really narrow view, but to go to the States and to see so many different parts, and then you arrive in Quebec and everyone's speaking French, and so the vastness, in Canada as well, is just a huge country. So, I mean, I just saw the tip of the iceberg, really, even though that I was there for 8.5 weeks.
Now, so you told me last night that you will be graduating from the Winston Churchill Fellowship next year. Mm-hmm. But that, of course, requires some work.
It does.
So, please tell me what your plans are to complete it.
Well, I have started. I've got to write a thesis for the Churchill Fellowship, so I've started that, and that will be up to sort of 10,000 words. And so they'll be my conclusions, my findings, what I found there, the Scots links, how strong they still are. In many ways, they were stronger, I think, in Canada, because, of course, remember, the migratory pattern was much later. So there are many Canadians there who will still have close family ties here, as opposed to in America, unlike, people like yourself who've moved there for economic reasons, for work. The people who migrated to America went there much earlier, during the Ireland clearances, so the links are more tenuous. So these, I'll be writing about my conclusions, and then obviously I hope to do my radio series, if not a documentary, a series of reports in the lead up to the homecoming next year, 2009.
So on the homecoming, now we've had after you left, George Birrell. Sorry, George. He suddenly got into this. He wants to make something happen in North Carolina about the homecoming, and we're not so sure. But your view, living in Edinburgh, really, which is really going to be the sort of magnet to a certain extent, is it going to be a big deal as you see it?
I think it is. I've been to a few things since I came back, press-wise, press launches, etc. My humble opinion is they've left it a bit late, because when I was over there, the target group, the people who have got connections here, who might embrace it as an opportunity to come home, or people who've got connections with Scotland, maybe that go further back and would have used it as a springboard to come, maybe who've never been before, were largely unaware of it. And even when I went to Washington, the senators, the congressmen, they'd heard rumblings because they're in the Friends of Scotland caucus, but they weren't hugely aware. And then I was hearing from the head of the Black Watch in Montreal, well, we would have gone, but we've heard all the hotels are booked already, and we've heard you can't get tickets for the gathering and things like that. So I don't know in the end what is going to happen, but it is going to be a big deal, I think, here. And I think
so with the contacts that you obviously have or can get reasonably easily with the job you do, did you provide any feedback to the organisation and say, look, there's...
Yes.
In general terms, people went, sorry, Louise, what did you say?
Yeah, well, that's it. And I did say that, and when I went to the press launch...
What I was hoping is that it wouldn't be too parochial, or there would be a sort of local Scots who would obviously go and sort of take all the bookings that the gentleman up in Montreal mentioned to you.
I think there will be people travelling here, but what you've got to remember as well, which is what I was saying when I was at that press briefing, I said, well, at the moment it's very difficult for people to come here because of the strength of the pound against the dollar. So for economic reasons, people who are going to make a trip to Scotland, Americans perhaps, want to come and see their roots, and that is a really popular thing to do, like the congressman did. McIntyre came here, but for those who want to do that, it's a big trip. It's not like, I went to Prague last weekend. It's not like you just say, well, I'm going to go for a few days. So therefore, my opinion would be people would have needed to book quite a while in advance, would be making their planning for that trip quite early. And I think because it's happening next year and they're just launching it now, it is a bit late. But I do think that there's a lot happening on the clans front, and there are a lot of groups coming over for that. And I spoke to people in Halifax, in Nova Scotia, who are coming. So I hope it will be a big event.
Terrific. Now we're sitting outside your beautiful apartment, or whatever it's.
Flat, we call it here.
I knew I said the wrong thing.
You've become a very American,
Sorry
Harry.
about that.
This is definitely a flat, isn't it? It's definitely it's not an apartment because it's Victorian and it's traditional.
So how do you feel about it emotionally? I mean, it's a nice place to stay the night, and we enjoyed that, but there must be an emotional attachment.
I really like it. I mean, we've been for a bit of a wander here, haven't we? And you can see it's a really nice place to live. It's near Morningside. Donald Ross knows it very well. This is the area that he knew in Edinburgh. It's it's very traditional, it's Victorian, it's not at all probably like people in America are used to, where things are very clinical and clean and modern, and, it is very traditional, but you walk around the corner and you've got traditional butchers and bakers and candlestick makers, if you like, all the traditional, and newspaper shops and delicatessens, and I think it's a really vibrant area and minutes from the city centre, so I'm very happy here. I really like Edinburgh.
I can tell. One thing I actually really did want to talk about was your visit from David Crabtree, but I had anticipated it would have gone successfully. So we probably won't talk too much.
This one's for Clarence.
This one's for Clarence. So that was disappointing.
It was very disappointing. In fact, I've never been stood up before. So when I was sitting on a date, even, never mind, just... and it was disappointing. And, I don't think a Scot would have done that.
No.
And that was the one thing. Sandra said that. She said, and all the travelling we did and the fact that we were meeting people. I mean, I remember arriving at the airport and you had the BBC Scotland sign up, that people that we met that sort of went out of their way, even though they'd only been put in touch through email contacts. And, in reverse, I wanted to kind of, I suppose, give that hospitality back, and then he didn't show. So that was disappointing.
It was. Yes, we don't like David Crabtree anymore.
No, he's off our Christmas card list.
So just to close up, any words for some of the Scots back home in Raleigh?
Oh, absolutely. It was great to meet you all, and I hope I'll come back to North Carolina sometime soon and see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we'll do a few. Sit there.
Noddies.
Right, could you just hold it roughly in position? Just get line out in the shot so I can be...